So I have a really interesting question today on Ask Scruff, and it's from Turkey Tooth. We'll salute you. Great name, that. It's a question I've never had before, but I think it's interesting. Let's have a quick look. So the question's this. Do you find the emotions of trading the same as the emotions of business? And how do you keep your emotions in check to remain consistent? Do you use techniques in business? Okay. Well, the short answer is they are completely different. Completely. Now, when you're in business, it's your job. You know, you don't get out of the bed in the morning and go, woohoo, I'm going to work. You know, you might enjoy your job, but you just get up, clean your teeth, have your breakfast, and you go do your job. Now, when you're at your job, you might enjoy it and you might get a lot of satisfaction from it. Now, some days are going to be tougher than others, you know, because you go there and maybe something doesn't go quite right. Machine breaks down and you get a bit frustrated because you're waiting on time, but it's just one of them things. Now, that's business. Now, also inside of business, there's other emotions. Now, the emotions that when you're at the top of the tree and you're running a business, it's normally kind of a stress-related incident. Now, when you work for yourself, and I don't mean in a cottage industry where you're just embroidering a few patches on a kitchen table and then selling them on eBay for £1 and think you're sort of Richard Branson because you made a tenner. I mean, when you're turning over something like 30,000, 100,000 a day, and your business is in the millions. Now, when you're at that level, your emotions are normally pretty stress-related because, one, you've got a big bankroll to wonder about all the time because if you're dealing with that amount of product, you've got to pay for it. You're dealing with multiple people, so your emotions have to be in check. You've got to be professional at all times, even if you are sort of a bit of a loudmouth like myself, you still got to keep them in check and be professional. And you've also got to deal with employees. Now, employees by nature can be difficult. Now, as you move up through the ranks, I had 19. And you always get that one that they might be okay at that job. You can't get rid of them because you don't like them. But you've got to keep in check in the sense that in a normal sort of situation, you just think you're an arsehole. But you've still got to employ them because you gave them a chance and they haven't really done anything wrong. So your emotions have to be controlled to a professional level. Now, I started in the blue chip industry. Well, I should say before my own business. I was in the blue chip industry and that's the way it is. You know, I was called Light Switch. And the reason I was called Light Switch in the tea room, I'd tell dirty jokes, I'd have a laugh, I'd be one thing another. But the moment I went into the boardroom, I was the sharpest guy in there. I would change like that. I would know my facts. Why is that? Because it's a professional environment. Now, these are things that when you're talking of emotions, if you're dealing with somebody that you really don't like, you have to keep them in check, all right, and go right through. Now, when the business is going wrong, you can't get angry and throw things about. You might be able to do it behind closed doors, but you can't do it in public. So therefore, business-wise, your emotions are very, very suppressed, okay? Now, I'm pretty certain we've all had those bosses that do throw merry fits, and I've had them as well. But when you understand why they're having a merry fit, you kind of start to forgive them. Now, I've worked with some managers that literally used to blow a gasket, but they were under immense stress. But the problem when you dug under them, you know, and I had managers under me and I used to sit and talk to them and one thing another, I often found it wasn't the job. They had a problem elsewhere. In their relationship, in their life, whether it was money problems or relationship problems. But that stress manifested itself in the job, and it's because they couldn't separate the two worlds. Now that, again, became a problem. So you would sit and talk to them and explain that you've got to fix one problem even if it's a small problem, to repair the big problem. So emotions came into business quite a bit, but as in running the business when I had my factory, and I was out the corporate world, did I blow gaskets? All the time. But I was never nasty with it or anything. Sometimes I got frustrated and these things would come out. Now, the way I used to get away with it is I like to drive. So I get in my car and I just go for a drive through the hills. I like seeing the scenery. It's why I live where I live. I live in the middle of nowhere, and Joanne and I did it the other night. Just got in the car and literally 2 minutes out my front door, you can't see a house anywhere. Nothing. It's just open fields. So I'll drive through them. So that keeps me calm. Now, when it comes to trading, your emotions are completely different. Now, certainly when you first start, because now you've got gambling tendencies, you've got the over trading tendencies, and all these different elements that come into trading that you hear all the time, like greed and fear and all of that. And a lot of the time, they're no different to business. See me, when I switch a chart on, I don't give a shit. Calm as a cucumber. It's either going to be right or it's going to be wrong. So I have no emotions in it whatsoever because it is just a job. Now, when you see I can throw off the handle a lot, and because I'm sort of retired now, I don't really give a shit whether I upset somebody or not, because I've only got me to deal with. But anybody ever watches me when I'm trading, you never see me blow a gasket, ever. I kick off when I get the horrible emails, and the day that you see me really kick off is when they're aimed at Joanne. Then I really go for it, right? But you go through the videos and you see me kick off, but then I flip on the chart, bang, I'm in the job. And that's how I keep my emotions in check. Because to me, trading is a job, pure and simple. I never gamble, I never revenge, I'm not frightened of it, and I'm not greedy with it. And every trader that I come across goes through all of these emotional set, and until you can control it, you are knackered. Now, the way you do it in trading is quite simple. Less is more. If you get up and the first thing you want to do is switch them charts on in the morning, this job probably isn't for you, because that's telling you straight away that you're gambling, because you need to be in the job. Now, that's a form of addiction. Now, addiction is destructive in anything. You smokers, drinkers, drug users, gamblers, every one of them goes road to ruin. So you've got to get that addiction out of your mind. There's none of that. I was never addicted to business. I just did my job, did it very well, and I got paid at the end of the month. That's what I do with trading. It's just my job. I get up, switch on, do my tasks, get paid whatever I get paid, and then enjoy my life. So there isn't any techniques of sorts, because we all have our own way of working things out. Like say, me, I'll get in the car and I'll go. I like to travel. Fortunately, I can work wherever I choose, because I just need to take my laptop with me. So in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to take another week off. Why? Because I can. I've earned my right to have this time off. I've earned my right to travel quite a bit. Now, is that emotional? No. That's a reward for not being emotional. So the techniques is very simple. You can see, I see people saying they meditate and they do this and they do the other. Personally, I think it's all a load of bollocks, and it just looks good for the camera. The easiest way to solve stress is take it head on and ask why you're stressed. Now, as I was saying, with employees, sometimes it's a family matter. So you talk them through and you figure out that maybe they're going through a divorce or the kids are off the rails or something like that. And sometimes they just want somebody to talk to. And then when they calm down, they do their job properly. Now in trading, because it's not an employer-employee situation, it's you and the chart, there is something that you hear me say, know thyself. Now the full quote is, know thyself, it is the beginning of wisdom. Now if you know you have gambling tendencies, you are desperate to switch that computer on, you have to teach yourself and educate yourself not to do it. So get up 20 minutes earlier and have a cup of coffee and read the newspaper and just don't even switch the machine on. And that'll stop you diving straight at the chart. Then when you do switch the chart on, have a rule that you cannot enter any trades for at least 30 minutes. At least 30 minutes. And then that way, that means you're not going to overtrade. You've got no bloody clothes on again. Oh, bacon sandwiches. Must be bank holiday because I said I'd take her out. Wow. Get a look at that. That's what keeps me calm. It's also what keeps me fucking stressed as well. But yes, so your rule is very simple. Don't take a trade in the first 30 minutes. If you've got into the markets and you're pressing that button within 30 minutes of opening up your laptop, trading is definitely not for you. Then size down so that you're not frightened of it. And however many trades you take in a week, half it. And then once you get yourself into a nice, calm routine, you'll be fine. Because at the end of the day, trading is a business. So therefore, emotions have no place in it. That's it. Treat it as a job. It'll pay you as a job. Hope that helps. Catch you all soon.